Hi everybody! Today I have for you a fun project using the newest Cut of the Month file from Cut2U. So initially when I started this project, I was going to create a card, and that's going to change into something completely different and awesome, and it's not going to be a scrapbook page or a card. So I have chosen a couple paper pads from Honeybee Stamps, and I have had a lot of requests to show how I back a cut file. I know that I've shown it so many times, and but I still get asked just about every video to show my process for backing cut file. It's always the exact same way, so I don't always film it or keep it in my videos because I feel like it would be super tedious for me to constantly show you how I do the same thing all the time. But here we go. First, I choose my pattern paper, and then I turn the cut file upside down. I turn my pattern paper upside down. Then I put the cut file onto my pattern paper. I grab a pencil and I do the inside. So I take my pencil and I trace the inside of the section that I want to cut out. In this case, it's going to be this little wooden part of the birdhouse. So simple. Just the hardest part is like when you do the first cut, just remembering to flip the cut file over and then flip your pattern paper over. So then once I have that traced, ta-da, I'm just going to take my favorite scissors that I use for fussy cutting, and I'm going to cut just along the outside. So you can see here I'm cutting just along the outside. Depending on how thick or thin or large your cut file is, depends on how close to that pencil line that you need to get. I needed to get pretty close for this particular cut file because this birdhouse, I cut it at like 6 by 6, so it was a little bit delicate, so I'm staying pretty close to the cut lines, but I'm still giving myself enough of a space that I'm going to be able to adhere it to the back with some glue. So once I fussy cut, and you can see here, like this is the hardest part, is that first one. Making sure you have it in the right spot, making sure that it's the right sides is facing out, because once you do the first one, then it's really easy to remember because you can see like what's the back side, what's the front side, all that. So I'm going to use some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. I'm putting just the tiniest little bit of glue on that white cardstock, and then I'm just going to take the other piece of pattern paper and push it right into the glue. And then I'm just going to do the same thing over all the different parts of the cut file over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm not going to make you watch all of that because it just gets to be so boring and so tedious, me doing the same thing over and over and over again. But there you go. For those that are constantly asking me, how do you back a cut file? That's how I do it, and I just rinse and repeat all the way around. In addition to backing this whole cut file, I also used some glossy accents, and I added some sequins to my cut file just for a little extra interest. Now, this is a piece of white cardstock, and it is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. And I'm going to go ahead and use this cloud background stamp from Brutus Monroe. Now, this stamp set is older. In fact, I was absolutely positive that there was no way it was still in stock over at Brutus Monroe's website, and believe it or not, there are 2 left. So if you love it, go grab it. There are 2 left, and I'll leave a link in the description box. I'm going to stamp this cloud background stamp with some Tranquil ink, which is a pretty sky blue color, and I think I stamped the ink, it maybe 2 or 3 times. Like I really wanted good saturation. I really wanted a really pretty background for our birdhouse and trim it down. So initially I was going to make a card that was 6 by 6, but as I was creating this, it was so pretty, and I thought it would be super fun to put it onto an easel in my living room and use it almost like a cute little home decor piece. So this is something that I do. If I can pull paper crafting items into my home decor for a new season, I love to do it. It's some of my favorite projects I have in my living room at my house. Like, I have shadow boxes, that I've decorated. I have a window that used to be in our attic, and when we replaced the windows in the attic, I kept one of the original 100-year-old windows from our house, and I added a hanging thing to a hanger to the top of it, and I went ahead and decorated it up with pictures of my kids and lots of pretty scrapbooking elements. And it's almost like a picture frame now, and it's in my dining room. So I love when I can take my scrapbooking supplies and use them around my house. The one thing I will say is that a lot of times when I do these kind of little seasonal pieces, and I usually do a couple of them every year, but I don't save them. So when spring turns into summer, this will be super dusty, and paper does not dust well at all. It's so hard to dust paper. Trust me. It's it's a mess. So usually I have my little decor pieces that I make and put out for each season, and then at the end of that season, when they're all dusty, I have no problem tossing them in the garbage, because I figure if I had made this into a card and I had sent it to someone, would they have kept it forever and forever and forever and forever? No, at some point they would have picked it up and tossed it in the trash. I get it, so I'm not too worried. There are a couple pieces that I've been able to save and keep from year to year, but once they get dusty, real dusty, paper just doesn't dust well. And after a while, it's time. So I went ahead and chose a 6 by 6 pattern paper to put behind this stamped piece. So now we have a panel that's going to be 6 by 6. And the only thing that I'm being very careful about is I am making sure when I do this that the bottom of this panel, nothing overlaps it, because that way it will fit really nicely in the easel for display. I covered the back of my panel with some Big Mama foam tape, and I put lots of foam tape on the back. That is one thing when I kind of decide I'm making something that is going to be on display in my home, or that is going to be on display in someone else's home, I definitely add lots and lots of adhesive and glue and all of those things so that it stays together. Now I am ready to go ahead and add my birdhouse down. And you'll see here the way that I line it up so that the bottom, I don't care that the birdhouse sticks out the one side of the panel or the top, but I want to make sure that the bottom, nothing hangs off of the bottom of that panel. So I'm just going to press this down good, get it into place. And then we're going to do some die cutting for a couple of little accents to this little panel. So what I did was I die cut 2 pieces of that peachy pink paper from the pattern from my Honeybee Stamps paper pad. And I have this cute little butterfly die from Ulta that I'm going to use. So I'm going to layer that up. And then I also went ahead and die cut 3 of these cute hello words. The dies are from Echo Park. They're a really older die. And I cut 2 of the hellos from Brutus Monroe's Not Your Mom's cardstock, and then 1 hello from the pattern paper. I'm going to get my stick and stamp mat from Brutus Monroe out, and that's going to help me keep everything in place. And I'm going to go ahead and glue the words together so they have a little bit more dimension on my panel. This panel I have in my living room. Oh, dry sink. The dry sink was originally my great-great-grandmother's. It's in my living room, and across the top of it, I want to say I almost treat it a little bit like a mantle. So on top of there, I have like a little letterboard, and I have an old Jane Austen book a vintage book that I got. I have a friend that does the book art. If you've never seen that, it's so cool. It's when they take old books and they fold them to make a art piece. So I have one of those, and I have a couple other things. I love to collect clear old glass, so there's some clear old glass vases on that dry sink. And so I like to switch out the decor on that. Maybe I'll flip out photos, maybe I'll flip out some other things. And so that is where this little piece is going to go. And I went ahead and I took a photo with it, like in its spot on the dry sink. That'll be at the end of this, and I'll let that photograph run for a little bit longer so you can really see like where in my house I put this cute little panel and how it looks on its little stand and all of that. So on my little birdhouse, I added some glossy accents, and I also added a little bit of sequins. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab that same sequin mix that I used to add to the center of the flowers on the cut file, and I'm going to add a couple little clusters of them in other spots around the layout. This sequin mix is called Peach Fizz, and it is it was designed to match the Pantone color of the year, which is Peach Fuzz. And it's a gorgeous sequin mix. It's at Spiegel Mom Scraps. I love this peachy mix. Peach is like my favorite color. The only thing that makes peach better is aquas and teals, and I love that mix of colors. So I really like how this turned out. So I'm just going to add a little bit of sequiny goodness onto my little panel. And here is the little panel in its home on my little dry sink in my living room. I put it by the letterboard, and I also added a new little thing to the letterboard beside it. So it says we have this little birdhouse piece with the hello, and then a little bit behind it, kind of on the dry sink in the little scape, maybe we'll call it a scape that I have there. My letterboard now says spring is in the air. No, wait, that's pollen, because the allergies are real, guys. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Something different, something a little out of the box, a way to use a gorgeous cut file like this when you don't really have photos, but you really love the design and you want to make it be something that you can look at and enjoy for the whole season of spring. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I will talk to you again very soon. Bye.